Hey guys, it's your humble host, or Kid if you prefer, so I'm back with another video on the main channel. I have posting privileges back. I wanted to cover an article because there's something big happening right now in Texas, and I believe it's happening for a few reasons, not honest reasons, and I will explain here in a minute once we go through the article. But as you guys are aware, and some of you who possibly don't remember, I've been helping with the case #SaveJames. Last year, there was a bunch of bills introduced in inspiration of James Younger, protecting James Younger and other children like him from being medically and psychologically abused and brainwashed. So, with that being said, all of these bills got shot down. They were dragged through the committee, pretty much left to die. One of these people being responsible is Stephanie Click. You have other House representatives in the state of Texas, which is one of the reasons why Jeff Younger is also running for House representative. The primaries are coming up. So I wanted to go through this article and just kind of read, because, again, and I'm going to explain my thoughts on this, because this is happening now, and this should have happened a year ago, but this is happening only for certain reasons. Anyway, Houston, Texas officials have begun investigating parents of transgender adolescents for possible child abuse, according to a lawsuit filed on Tuesday, after Governor Greg Abbott directed them last week to handle certain medical treatments as possible crimes. So let me also show you, because this is touching upon a filing. So this is a set of tweets by J. David Goodman. I want to make sure you guys can see this. Yes, you can. Texas began investigating parents of transgender children for possible child abuse for providing them with gender-affirming care. Among the first is the family of a 16-year-old whose mother worked for the state agency responsible for such investigations. Story continued. The employee who works for the review of reports of abuse was put on leave last week, according to a suit filed today. An investigator came to the house on Friday. The state is seeking medical records related to the child. The parents have refused to hand them over. And of course, the ACLU is getting involved and try to sue the state of Texas. Good luck with that. Here is a link to the suit against Governor Greg Abbott, Texas, and Texas Department of Family Services over the classification of treatment for transgender teenagers as child abuse. We are terrified for Mary's health and well-being and for our family, wrote the state employee. So you have a state employee who is in the department of these investigations, and she got kicked out of office. While they're doing the investigations, they had enough sense to kick her out of office. So I'm actually kind of surprised by this move. Now, again, all of this should have happened a year ago. You had HB 1399, you had HB 68, you had a couple others which were all killed. So, if you guys have been following, and I'm going to post a link in the description, Jeff Younger for Texas, the Facebook page, I do believe that it was posted that there was talks. Jeff Younger actually had a conversation with Stephanie Click, one of the people responsible for killing these bills last year, pretty much, and this is alleged. So what was said, allegedly, is that the reason why Stephanie Click killed these bills and did not allow them to pass because she didn't want to offend the transgender community. So, F, protecting the children, this is about person's feelings. Anyway, so they're suing Texas over investigations of parents of trans kids for child abuse. I feel betrayed by my state and the agency for whom I work. And then this is the story that we're covering. The investigations by the State Department of Family and Protective Services, which have not been previously reported, were started in response to an order from Mr. Abbott to the agency, the lawsuit says. The order followed a non-binding opinion by the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. He is also responsible for killing these bills last year. So why the hell are they doing all this stuff now? Because re-elections are coming up, people. This is the only reason why they're pushing this. And you have Don Hoffins, you have Chris Prather, you have Alan West, have all vowed in their governmental campaigns, because those are the three running for the governor of Texas, because Abbott is up for re-election here soon, they all have vowed to end this diabolical crap. And so Greg Abbott right now is trying to step up his game so he can stay in office. Now, am I completely against efforts? No. As I said, this should have happened a year ago. And if this had happened a year ago, I highly believe Jeff Younger would still have his sons and not have had his parental rights stripped from him wrongfully by Judge Mary Brown of the 1st District Court, Dallas, Texas. So, now people are asking me real quick, because I'm going to touch upon this. This has been asked on the Save James page. How is this going to affect the case with James and Jeff and Jude? We honestly don't have any idea just yet. This is just the groundwork, and there's already lawsuits. But if this stuff gets solidified, it will classify parents who do this to their kids as child abusers and put them, from what was described, on some sort of registry, I believe. This would mean Ann Georges would be classified as a child abuser. For anyone who watched my coverage of the 2019 hearing, or Jeff Morgan's, or any of the interviews about Jeff Younger, you would see and hear that James Younger was being indoctrinated. He was being forced to socially transition. He's now enrolled in school as Luna Younger. And Jude Younger, his twin brother, was forced to lie and live a lie. So there's been all these things that have been exposed. I still have the notes from the hearing of 2019. Those are going to be in the description below. Some of the handwriting is scrawly, so I apologize. Having to record that fast when so much was going on and so much was being revealed was absolutely nuts. I went through like 3 different pens, possibly 4, with the ink literally running out. Anyway, let's continue. Let's see, where did I leave off? Okay. That parents provide their transgender teenagers with puberty-suppressing drugs or other medically accepted treatments, which doctors describe as gender-affirming care, could be investigated for child abuse. And do keep in mind, the FDA, what is being used as puberty blockers and things like that, has not been backed by the FDA. The uses for certain drugs, and I'm going to put a link in the description. Actually, no, you could just see it in the playlist, the Save James playlist. There's a live stream that goes over Ann Georges' mental condition, where she had a pituitary gland or tumor in her brain. And so she has a medical history of just having a few screws loose. And well, in that same stream, we talk about the drugs that are used as puberty blockers and the real use of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, which was generally for elderly and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and we go over articles and medical documents and so things like that. So go look at the Save James playlist. Let's continue. Among the first to be investigated was an employee of the State Protective Services Agency who was a 16-year-old transgender child. On Tuesday, the American Civil Liberties Union of Texas and Lambda Legal went to state court in Austin to try to stop the inquiry, which these people don't want to be investigated. They want to keep hiding their stuff because, let me remind you, there's a bunch of money involved in this. For those of you who also remember what came out after the hearing in regards to Ann Georges' clinic, she rebranded herself as Children's Health, and she was attached to the Children's Health Hospital. I believe it's a hospital that was doing a study of endocrinology and children with gender dysphoria. So yeah, there's a lot of money involved. Big Pharma is involved. You have Planned Parenthood involved, not specifically in Save James' case, but they have got themselves involved in transgender medicine. The employee who was not named in the court filing works on the review of reports of abuse and neglect. So this kind of makes me wonder, because again, I'm just speculating. I don't know if this is true or not, but I wonder if she had a hand in cases like Save James, because she has her own child that's transitioning and that she has brainwashed and indoctrinated. So I wonder if Jeff's case ever came across her desk, makes you wonder. She was placed on administrative leave last week, according to the filing, and on Friday was visited by an investigator from the agency, which is also seeking medical records related to her child. The family of the child, identified in court documents only as Mary Doe, has refused to voluntarily turn over the records. I wonder why. Because let me also remind you of another case. This is not in Texas, this is in Minnesota. Save Miles Gortz. We have also covered that case, and unfortunately, due to time and scheduling and things like that, I have not been able to do any more videos on it. But Bretton Nuts of Miles Gortz, his child, his son, is autistic, has some cognitive disabilities, and his mother had him on antipsychotic drugs. The child at the time of my coverage, I believe, was maybe 10 or so. But yeah, he was autistic. He has social problems. So he was being brainwashed by Sarah Gortz into thinking he was a girl named Miley. We are terrified for Mary's health and well-being and for our family, wrote the employee in a declaration filed with the suit in which she and her husband were identified as Jane and John Doe. I feel betrayed by my state and agencies for whom I work. No. So this is a poor me victim. This isn't about you being betrayed. I bet you anything you had a hand in hiding cases that were brought to you or dismissing cases of alleged child abuse because the other parent was socially trying to transition their child. I bet you anything she had a hand in this garbage, and I'm speculating, this is speculation, but I wonder if the Save James case came across your freaking desk. Oh, I am very curious about this, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the case. She added, not providing Mary with the medically necessary healthcare she needs is not an option for us. It's not medically necessary. You know, this is what I hate when people talk about these stuff. Oh, it's medically necessary. It's life-saving. No, it causes more medical problems alone. And I'm actually going to put another link to the channel in the description. His real name is Isaac, and I forgot how to pronounce his actual channel, but he talks about his detransition process and all the medical issues he's been having since, and the medical issues that came about as he was trying to transition into a female. So I want you to look at that channel because no, it doesn't have people like, well, this is just religious. No, he's not, from what I've seen on the channel, he's not religious. He doesn't bring God into it. He talks about his journey in raw form. I want you guys to go watch those videos. Link in the description below after this one. According to the lawsuit, the state's investigator told the parents that the only allegation against them was that their transgender daughter might have been provided with gender-affirming health care and was currently transitioned from male to female. Neither a spokesman for the state protective agency nor the governor's office responded to requests for comment. So, of course, here's the thing. The governor's not going to respond to inquiries either, because then he would have to answer for why he didn't get involved with the Save James bills. Again, it was found out. So let me explain something to you. So, because a lot of people talk about this, and I actually did not know this. So when you see donations from like the ACLU to all these politicians, they have to give money to all the parties involved to make it look like they're unbiased. But pay attention to the amount that each politician gets. I'll give you an example. So, and I can't remember if it was GLAAD or it was a LGBT pro nonprofit organization. Don Huffings had gotten $2,000 from these people. That's the minimum he has to be given, so it looks like they're unbiased and they have to follow certain laws. Now, on the other hand, Greg Abbott was on that list, and he was well into the 10K. A couple 10K was given to him, and actually quite a few times. So this is why I'm saying that these people are not going to get, like, the author of the New York Times article here is not going to get a response from Governor Greg Abbott. He does not get, these people don't give a damn. The only reason why they're doing this right now is because elections are coming up. And I'm not trying to actually down talk what is actually being done. I am down talking the reason why it's being done now when this should have been done a year ago. Again, it's not for the children. It's so people can stay in the power chair, which is really disgusting. It was not clear if Mr. Abbot's order would survive judicial scrutiny. The order does not change Texas law, and several county attorneys and district attorneys have said they would not prosecute families for child abuse under the new definition. Oh, of course not, because, again, they're getting paid to do certain things. For anybody who has been through family courts or just courts alone, I mean, if we're talking generally speaking, you'll find out a lot of these people, judges, lawyers, prosecutors, freaking even the police, and I respect your PD, but you will find certain individuals are in bed with each other, friends with each other, getting paid off by other people. I mean, it's just look at the spider web that's involved in the Sophie Long case, Save James, Kara Wachowski case. Dude, these people are so connected. They're freaking serving each other. It's disgusting. Still, the directive by Mr. Bott has had a chilling effect, and the ramifications of the redefinition are significant. As Mr. Bott described in his letter, the order would mean that all licensed professionals who have direct contact with children would be required to report to state authorities those that they believe are receiving gender-affirming treatment or face criminal penalties. So, again, Big Pharma is involved in this. They don't want to lose their honeypot. They don't want to lose their little guinea pigs, because when you fully transition and when you start that process, you were attached to the government's and Big Pharma's hip for life. Life. People are not understanding this at all. People who just want to live in a bubble, oh well, it's gonna save them. It makes them their identity more congruent with their body, or vice versa. No, it doesn't. It is delusion. It is delusion. You are medically and physically and psychologically and emotionally destroying your body. Your sex is tied to your overall state of being. Men, women, it's all tied. Your biology is tied to emotionally and mentally, and when you screw with that, you're going to have far more problems than you wanted or bargained for. Let's continue. In the court filing on Tuesday, the ACLU of Texas and Lambda Legal, a civil rights organization focused on LGBTQ communities, sought to block the request for medical records in the employee's case and more broadly challenge the legitimacy of the investigation and the power of the governor to change the definition of child abuse. According to the filing, other investigations have also begun. So again, these people don't want the actual details brought forth, because you're going to find evidence of possible autism, you're going to find evidence of possible trauma, stuff that happened in the home that really messed with the child psychologically and mentally, that caused you something to get rewired and just go wonk out. Like, they don't want any of this brought forth. And a lot of the times, it's the mother doing this, Munchausen by proxy. A lot of these moms like to come out and go, well, my kid is feeling this way. There are cases where you do hear it's the dad doing it, but to be honest, those are few and far between. Usually it's the mother. And that's when there has been a broken mantle in the home, and the father won't step up and challenge it because it's a bloody nightmare. And it's one I don't wish on anybody. Let's continue. The groups argue in the suit that the directive by the governor was issued improperly under state law, ran afoul of the Texas Constitution, and violated the constitutional rights of transgender youth as well as their parents. No family should have to be fear of being torn apart because they are supporting the trans child. There is no such thing as a trans child. Trans child translates to aka indoctrinated, brainwashed, and confused, and possibly delusional. There is no such thing as trans children. This is a label that's put on to disguise what is really happening with the child. Andrew Perez, a policy strategist at the ACLU of Texas, said in a statement, a week before an election, Governor Balt and Attorney General Ken Paxton issued a partisan political attack that isn't rooted in the needs of families. Yes, it is. It's not. This isn't about families. This is about money. This is about narratives being pushed. This is about the medical industry not wanting to lose their freaking paychecks. I mean, follow the damn money. This has nothing to do with protecting families. The freaking needs of families, it's just a phrase guising what's really going on and what's really at the heart of this entire issue. It has nothing to do with protecting children. No. The LGBTQ, the freaking ACLU, no. You guys are not out to protect children. You guys are out to keep your little experiments and money going, and to keep certain people in power. Like, come come on, man. Oh. Dr. Megan Mooney, a licensed psychologist in Houston, is also a plaintiff in the lawsuit. Dr. Mooney, that name, who is required to report suspected child abuse under Texas law, has a practice that includes transgender patients, many of whom have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, according to the suit. So again, this is another conflict of interest. Licensed psychologist. I wonder who else's name is going to come up. Is it possibly going to be Rebecca Orr's? Is she going to be named in this freaking lawsuit? And just because Rebecca Orr, if you don't remember, she was originally a counselor for James, who was trying to fast track him to the Genesis Clinic, who does puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and prepares the child for transition surgery later on down the road. Is her name going to come up in this crap too? Like, how many people? I bet you anything. If this is actually done right and this is press, I bet you anything you're going to get law firm names coming out of this shit. You're going to get judges' names coming out of this crap. Oh my gosh, man. The orderly news of investigations into gender-affirming medical care have had a chilling effect on families with trans children or teens, many of whom no longer want to go on their record or publicly identify as trans. Let me also tell you something else. There's a case out of California. The father had contacted the Save James Pains, and his first name is Ted. I don't remember his full name, but guess who's involved in his case? Diane Erzenhalf. If you remember who that wacko is, that lady was supposed to be one of Anne's expert witnesses and wasn't allowed on the stand, because there's a video that's going on of her telling other counselors and psychiatrists to use the suicide tactic of telling parents, hey, tell parents that if they don't let their child transition, that their children are more than likely going to commit suicide. There's a video of her telling this to other people she is training. Her, Diane Erzenhalf, is part of this case of the father's first name is Ted. The judge, which Hirano or whatnot, the judge presiding over his case has a child of her own that she allowed to transition. It's a conflict of interest. It's money. They don't want their own stuff challenged. So a lot of these people are in bed with Big Pharma. When I try to explain this to people who refuse to look outside of their little safety bubbles or outside of the freaking rainbow crap or the freaking trans flag crap, anybody who's caught in those spheres doesn't want to see reality, because it's a dark and messed up reality. It's abuse. It is psychological, it is mental, it is physical, and it is medical abuse. Way beyond the mark. Let's see. I read this. One parent transgender teenager in Houston said that the family's health clinic, Legacy Community Health, has suspended all refills and new prescriptions for transgender minors in light of Mr. Robot's order. Her son was only 1 week supply left of his testosterone. And these are teenagers. So that's another thing that's messing with their puberty, which, look in the case of Jazz Jennings. Because he got started on that stuff way early, certain stuff didn't develop properly, and he has medical complications up the wazoo. His mom is a total nut job. Leaving the family scrambling to find other options, we feel absolutely betrayed to the mother. And again, it's the mother. It is never the father. Anytime cases like these come up, it is always the mother speaking to the news. It is always the mother getting referenced. It is never the father. The reason why you don't hear from the father, because the father either has to go along with it, or he has to risk the potential possibility of losing his freaking child. Look at Jeff Younger. Brett Netz was able to overcome his stuff because he found the new judge over his case is competent, his lawyer is competent. But look at Jeff. His ex-wife, Ann Georgelis, is a pediatrician who's tied to trans medicine. Again, there's an agenda. There's all kinds of things going on. You have Coons Filler in on it. You have the freaking judge in on it. The judge, Mary Brown, was friends with Susan Fletcher, who pushes the transgender crap as well. Let's continue. Legacy Community Health did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Another family said they were frustrated, angry, and nervous about Mr. Bot's order. Willow, Argentine 13, is proudly open about her identity as a trans girl. So this is a 13-year-old boy who's already been way indoctrinated, socially transitioned to think he's a girl. 13. He's on hormones. Puberty blockers. His stuff isn't going to develop properly. He's going to have all kinds of medical issues down the road, just like Jennings did. It's super scary seeing all these people be against you and want you gone, Willow said, adding the parents to support their trans children is not child abuse. Okay, so again, this is the child parodying propaganda. It is not that people are against children and those individuals who struggle with their identity both on an emotional, mental, and sexual level. It is an ideology that is preying on vulnerable and disabled people that in the end is ultimately destroying them. Owen Argentine 49 said that his daughter, so this is one father, again, there are cases where it's the father that does speak out, said that his daughter's confidence in who she is outweighs her anxiety over facing any legal ramifications. On Tuesday, his daughter marched to the state capitol in Austin, where the family lives, donning a trans flag, which is light blue, pink, and white as a cape, and wearing neon high socks bearing the trans flag. So this child is beyond he's gone, just socially gone. He is that far down in the delusion, and it's sad. It really is sad because the families that are pushing this don't want the true issue diagnosed. They don't want the stuff really delved into because, again, you're going to find possibly autism, you're going to find trauma, you're going to find some sort of insecurity or maybe body shame or something. You're going to find a mix of stuff in there, not particularly all of them in one bottle, if you will, but you will find evidence that something happened to the child, lay down the lines, they were indoctrinated, possibly groomed, preyed upon, something. There's always something there that caused the child switch just to go yoink, whether the parents involved or not. Let's continue. The alternative of hiding feels like that would be the worst solution, he said. Although it's nerve-wracking and although it's scary, the last thing we want to do is be silenced. Mr. Argentine declined to discuss the nature of Willow's care out of privacy concerns, but said his family wasn't planning any changes because of a 2-page letter written by the governor. He said his family may consider moving out of state, and actually there's GoFundMe's for trans families who want to get the hell out of Texas. And honestly, at this point, because there is one lady who did a TED Talk this is the woman that said that she had a very vivid dream of her baby boy telling her that she was, or that he was a girl. Like, these people are nuts. Like, full-blown nuts. Like, something got lost in their brains or screws or something. He said his family may consider, I read that, but they are committed to fighting this order no matter where they live. The moves by Mr. Abbott and Mr. Paxton, both two-term Republican incumbents, came days before a primary election. So this is the only way Paxton and Abbott are doing this. And again, I'm not against the initial effort. This should have been done a year ago. But it's the reason why they're doing it, which is really messed up. And so they can stay in office. Otherwise than that, if they weren't up for re-election for another 2 years, 2 to 4 years, they wouldn't be doing this shit. I guarantee, because if they actually gave a damn, they would have had these down in paper when they first heard about this case in 2019, and then they would have continued to push for it. But no, Abbott gets money from LGBTQ nonprofit organizations, and he gets a lot of money. It's pretty much being paid off. Stephanie Click, freaking all these freaking clowns. Campaigns before a primary election in which each faces significant and noisy challenges from far-right opponents. Mr. Paxton, who has been indicted on security fraud, oh no, charges and accused of corruption by his own former top aide. Oh my gosh, that is his office, has been seen as particularly vulnerable. Going into Tuesday's primary, he appeared unlikely to receive more than 50% of the vote and was likely to end up in a May runoff. So I don't know who's running against Paxton. Oh, but I hope they freaking well, actually, no, I shouldn't quite say it because I don't know. Actually, let me see real quick who he's going up against. Paxton. I'm keeping this off screen because I have a bunch of stuff open. Running. So, who is running for Attorney General? Let's see. Shows Ken Paxton leading. Oh. So it looks like it's a Democrat. Oh. George P. Bush. Oh, he's the nephew of President George W. Bush. So they're kind of keeping the name of the family. You have Louis. Oh, you have a couple people. Okay, so there's actually quite a few names. Okay. So I do hope the right person unseats Paxton, somebody who actually has a spine to do the right thing, regardless of whether or not they lose their chair. Let's continue. Over the past year, the state government in Texas has lurched sharply to the right. Actually, no, it's actually gotten more pro-family. Actually, pro-family and not so nuts. Republican incumbents, I already read that. Particularly on social issues, abortion has been severely limited in the state since a new law went into effect last September that effectively banned the procedure after 6 weeks of pregnancy and empowered ordinary citizens to enforce its precision. Yeah, no, 6 weeks, like 4 weeks, like you're kind of pushing it. 5 weeks, no, you better start making plans. 6 weeks, no. And I'm not for abortion in general. I mean, when it comes like birth control and stuff, educate yourself, take care of your body. And I know this term has been used for COVID, but actually look into the science. For example, when the sperm meets the egg, it bounces around for 24 hours, and that does not necessarily mean it's always going to stick to the uterine wall because it can get flushed out a day later. So, do I believe that birth starts at conception? No, because it's not backed by actual science. Actual science, not what's being pushed and crap like that. So, anyway, again, there has to be a 24-hour period where it actually, the fertilized egg actually has to attach itself to the uterine wall, and that's why you can't test properly until like 4 to 6 weeks after your first missed period. So there you go, biology education for you. To push the push to investigate parents for child abuse if they provide certain medical treatments to the transgender children similarly relies on ordinary Texas to report suspected violations. In the case of teachers, Pinkerton Elementary comes to mind. Doctors and others who must report what they believe to be child abuse, it requires it. Not if the schools are in on it, like Pinkerton Elementary goes along with the bullshit and George Lewis is doing. Don't expect the schools to report it. Paul Castillo, senior counsel at Lambda Legal, said in a statement that Mr. Bott and Mr. Paxton were joining a politically motivated misinformation campaign. Nope, not misinformation. They're just doing this for the wrong reasons, with no consideration of medical science. It's not medical science. Again, there is, this is propaganda speak, and I freaking hate it. There is no medical science backing up what you shitheads are trying to do and have been doing, and seem determined to criminalize parents seeking to care and provide for their kids. Nope. You can take your heartstring fucking self and go elsewhere with it. Adding that gender-affirming care for the treatment of gender dysphoria is medically necessary care, full stop. What you guys call medical care is physical medical abuse. The official moves have been praised, however, by some groups that oppose such treatments. Minors are prohibited from purchasing paint, cigarettes, alcohol, or even getting a tattoo. And let's also add cough syrup. Let's add certain aerosents, car heat, car fluids. Yeah, kids and teenagers can't purchase all kinds of things without an ID. So, yeah, why the hell would they have any freaking clue about their sexuality and overall identity? when they barely have a grasp of the world. And so I'm trying to remember what this dude's name. I believe his Schumer, one of Anne's expert witnesses, because she had two other ones. She had a total of four, and only two were put on the stand. Schumer, I believe his last name was talking about letting the child take the lead when the child doesn't understand shit about the world. Again, it's all propaganda, it's disgusting, and it's an agenda. Why the hell would you let a child take the lead in anything when they don't understand anything? Not saying children are stupid, and they can be very intelligent, but the overall burden of the world, the ambiguities and nuances, hyperboles of real life, world matters. Children don't understand those things. The official moves have been I already read that. Jonathan Convoy, policy director of the group Texas Values, said in a statement last week, "We cannot allow minors or their parents to make life-altering decisions on body-mutilating procedures and irreversible hormonal treatments." That is true. The effort to stop treatments for transgender teenagers has been sharply criticized by professional medical groups. Oh, well, of course they have, because they're going to lose money on their experiments. Again, if you guys are familiar with Big Pharma, their main objective is not to help people, it's to keep people financially attached to them. Why do you think medications for certain treatments and things like that are so high through the roof? It's about money. It's not about people's health. It's never been about people's health. It probably started with good intentions at one point, but no, it's about money. The more you can mass produce a drug, the more uses you can attach to it, whether it's backed by the FDA or not, makes Big Pharma, makes the pharmacies more money. And by transgender health experts who have said that such decisions, particularly those that carry medical risk, should be weighed by a patient, their patients, and their doctors. I'm not going to repeat myself. Studies have found that transgender teenagers are at a higher risk of suicide. I wonder why. And it's not just because they're denied life-saving medicine. Actually, did you know that the rates for suicide go up after somebody's fully transitioned? Part of it has to do with the hormones that they're taking in synthetic form and the balances of those hormones that are not natural for their body. Again, I have brought this up before. If you just looked at birth control, for example, which is synthetic hormones, and the effects it has on women alone, there's a lot of women that get very depressed and suicidal after starting birth control because what they're taking is messing with the hormone balance, which when your hormones are out of whack, part of it makes you depressed. It can make you suicidal depending on how severe it is. Let's not leave out weight gain, hair loss, other issues. The list goes on. That's just with birth control. That is synthetic hormones. There have been some debate among doctors over the details of treatment for young people, as an increasing number of teenagers have sought to better align their bodies with their gender identities through hormones and surgeries. So, there has been an uptick of kids transitioning over the past few years because they think that's the answer. Again, as I've said it before, it's all feeling. None of it is logical. None of it boils down to facts. They run on their feelings and their unadulterated emotions alone. Teenagers are stupid. And when they're indulged in their stupidity and their confusion, they're going to run wild. Puberty is not fun in general. And when that's compounded with insecurities, whatever may be happening in the home, can make that 10 times worse. Transitioning, mutilating their bodies is not the answer. It never has been. Thank God this stuff was not really being pushed when I was going through some of this dark stuff when I was in high school. At the same time, legislation to ban gender-affirming treatment for teenagers has been introduced in more than 20 states, including Texas, though no such bills passed during the last legislative season. Yeah, those are the Save James bills that a bunch of these freaking clowns killed because they were getting paid off. Yeah, all this is what they're referring to. The bills in Texas last year were inspired by Save James. Like I said, you had HB 1399, you had HB 68. I want to say HB possibly 64. You had quite a few of them. In Texas, one of the bills would have redefined child abuse to include gender-affirming treatment for transgender children. Again, inspired by Save James. After those bills failed, Mr. Bott last summer directed the state's Protective Services Agency to determine whether surgeries for transgender teenagers would constitute child abuse. So they're transitioning teenagers whose bodies are not fully developed. The agency also removed information about gender identity and about a suicide prevention hotline from its website. What? State agency removed online sources for LGBTQ youth after complaints from a Republican challenging Gov. Okay, so why was the suicide hotline removed? That is something to look into. Is this suicide hotline for people struggling with their identity that would also provide sources for the person to go? Okay. Dawn Huffings. Holy crap. Okay. The agency also removed information about gender identity and about a suicide prevention hotline from its website after one of Mr. Abbot's Republican primary opponents, Dawn Huffings, attacked the governor for promoting transgender sexual policies to Texas youth. Then, late last month, Mr. Paxton issued his opinion and Mr. Abbott responded with his directive. According to the filing on Tuesday, the agency began its investigations almost immediately after. So, with that being said, I am not knocking the efforts overall. Like I said, this should have been done a year ago, if not 3 at this point. Over 2 years ago, when Save James broke through the surface of the media, but they didn't step in. Nothing was done at all. They just tweeted about it to virtue signal, and that's it. That's it. So why this is being done now? Because elections are coming up, and as you read, or as you saw, Paxton was accused of security fraud, and so he's vulnerable, and then Abbott is being challenged by 3 different Republicans. So these people have proven to be cowards, and they're only doing things right now so they could keep their term. Again, it is not what's being done, it's the reason why it's being done, and now. So, and as I've stated before, especially with Save James and all this other stuff, it has never been about protecting children. It has never been about the well-being of people. And also something to look into, John Money, the guy who created all this shit, was a freaking pedophile. John Money, queer theory, he's the one that developed all this stuff, and he was a stinking pedophile. This is rooted in pedophilia. This is rooted in money. This is rooted in delusion. This is rooted in trends. There is nothing healthy about this. There is nothing logical about it. And there is nothing, and I am trying to use this word the right way. I don't want to say progressive, but there's nothing developmental about it. It's regressive. It's repulsive. Now, as I said, people who are fighting against the ideology, not the people who got preyed upon and pulled into the freaking cult, because LGBTQ, this stuff is a cult. It is. It is a religious cult. These bills are not against those people. The bills, what is being done now, is against the ideology of preying on vulnerable individuals and going after people who would prey on such individuals, whether the medical trauma, physical, sexual, mental disabilities, sociological problems, the list goes on. So, I referenced this conversation before, and I'm going to reference again. The person I was talking with, about all this when they found out I was anti-LGBT, when because they were sent to come talk to me for some odd reason. This is the person they sent to me. He thought I was against him as an individual. And it's like, no, I'm not against these people as individuals. I'm against what they have fallen for, what they have been led to believe, which is self-destruction. Again, I mean, I've talked about this multiple times. This is population control. This is experimentation. You have people, again, I'll give you another name, Keira Bell, Keirabell. She transitioned into a male and then woke up and transitioned back into a female, but she lost, because she went through the full transitional surgery, she lost her feminine parts. She can't reproduce. She can't live a normal lifestyle anymore. The other person I have, Isaac, go look at his YouTube channel. There's a particular video in there of a phone call he had with his psychiatrist or counselor where he just went off, and the counselor pretty much admitting, well, I don't believe that it's delusional for someone to think they're the opposite sex. This used to be classified as a mental problem, and I believe it was the DSM-5, and because of politics and other crap, it got voted out of the book. I'm not kidding. So politics does have a part in what is considered a mental illness and what's not. There's nothing normal or healthy about this stuff. Go look at the media. Like, you can just pull up, type in the word detransition in YouTube, and you'll see a bunch of people coming out with their stories, how they were led astray, how they were lied to, their mental issues weren't delved into. There's all kinds of things, man, and I can't say this enough. And we have children now that are being experimented on. We have government officials, we have freaking judges and lawyers who are all in on this stuff to keep it going because it makes them all money. Just family court alone over just this particular stuff. There is no cap to how much money these people can make off of crap like this. Anybody who's been through family courts, just family courts in general, can tell you that they will go out of their way with filings and do certain things and not do certain things so they can keep the case going. It's quite divisive and it's quite disgusting. Anyway, this has gone on for almost an hour, but I wanted to cover this because it's still going. I don't like the reason why it's being done, which is just so people can stay in office. But I'm happy it's being done. I just wish people had more backbone, and I hope, because there's someone else. Oh, so when I referenced Stephanie Click, she actually has somebody who's trying to oust her too. His name is David Lowe. Him and Jeff Younger know each other, and he's also running for a House representative, and he's trying to kick Stephanie Click out of her chair because of the crap she pulled over the past couple years. I have all these people get freaking voted out. There's also something too, Judge Mary Brown, because I heard this from the grapevine, is she's coming up for re-election. Yes, because for those of you who don't know, judges do get voted into their courts. You can vote on a judge, and you have to pay attention to when their elections are coming up and things like that. So, from what I understand, she's not on the ballot coming up, but she's getting ready to get kicked out. So that kind of begs the question, is she going to get ousted or removed before Jeff's case is brought forth and something is actually done with it proper by the courts? Or, so, I don't know. I really don't know. But this has been in the works for a while. People are fed up with their children get preyed upon. You have parents who completely lost their minds, who either too scared to go up against the state because the state courts and all that are involved. I mean, look what's happening in Canada. What's been happening, you can get your child torn away from you if you don't affirm their delusions of who they have been indoctrinated to believe who they are. So anyway, with that being said, follow what's happening in Texas. As you can see in my YouTube channel banner, Jeff Younger for Texas. I fully support him. I'm no one really big, but I'm going to continue to stand alongside that. Also, David Lowe. Looking at David Lowe. He's running up against Stephanie Click. I hope Click, Abbott, Paxton are all freaking yeeted. It's time if we can get one state to establish backbone and actual full legitimacy in being pro-family and pro-life, it will cause others to follow. Just like what's happening in Florida, DeSantis against the COOF. He took a stand and it caused other states to follow. We just need one state to do this and show, yes, it can be done when you have the proper people stand up. Others will follow. Anyway, with that being said, have a good one.